It is great to be in Laredo. It is great to be here with so many friends as we're gathered at the site of one of the most important ports for commerce in the world. Laredo is the largest land port of entry in the United States of America. And what we see here is nearly $800 billion of commerce that comes into and out of Laredo, that comes to Texas, that comes to America, and that drives jobs and prosperity. You know, we're at a time when there are lots of partisan disagreements in our country. But one thing that should bring us together is the importance of jobs and economic growth. South Texas is an incredible place of vibrant opportunity. And the jobs in South Texas are driven powerfully by the trade and commerce that goes back and forth across this bridge and across the other bridges along the Rio Grande. Unfortunately, for the past 2.5 years, we have seen the current administration, the Biden administration, putting bureaucratic roadblocks in the way of building new bridges and of expanding existing bridges. The way it works to build an international bridge across the Rio Grande is, under federal law, you have to get a federal presidential permit to build or expand a bridge. The government previously approved those permits conditional on the completion of the environmental review, what's called the NEPA review. That enabled the project to go forward, to get financing, and to be built. Unfortunately, the Biden administration turned that upside down. They implemented a new policy where they would not grant any presidential permits to new bridges or expanding bridges until after all of the environmental review was complete. The effect of that bureaucratic roadblock was to delay all of these bridge projects enormously by as much as 2, 3, 4 years. Not only that, by denying the presidential permit at the outset, it made it harder for the sponsors of the bridges to secure financing to move forward with the projects. The World Trade Bridge here, there's a proposal to expand it, to add 2 new lanes, and to build 8 brand new lanes, a total of 10 new lanes of commerce running north and south. That has enormous benefits for the city of Laredo and for all of Texas. We're here today because we have cause to celebrate. I've been working hand in hand with my friend Congressman Henry Cuellar, and we have seen complete bipartisan unanimity among the South Texas congressional delegation. Henry and I have worked together along with my colleague John Cornyn, along with Vicente Gonzalez, a Democrat, along with Monica de la Cruz, a Republican, along with Tony Gonzalez, a Republican. All of us standing together have united to pressure the Biden administration to stop delaying these bridges. And in the last week, we won big bipartisan victories for South Texas. In the past week, Henry on the House introduced appropriations language to speedline the development of these new bridges. In the Senate, I introduced legislation in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to speed up 4 new bridges across South Texas. In the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I'm proud to have earned bipartisan support on that committee to have brought together Democrats and Republicans. The legislation I introduced was adopted. It was included on the State Authorization Act, and that legislation in turn was attached to the National Defense Authorization Act, which is right now today pending on the Senate floor. Tomorrow I'll fly back to Washington, D.C., and I hope and expect we will vote that legislation off of the floor in the coming days and that President Biden will sign it into law. Simultaneously, Henry on the House is moving the appropriations language so that the two approaches together are very much a belt and suspenders approach to get these bridges built. The bridges we're talking about are bridges supported by the city of Laredo, supported by Webb County, supported by Cameron County down in Brownsville, supported by Maverick County and Eagle Pass, new bridges, and expanding existing bridges. And because of these bipartisan victories, victories that were supported by the men and women gathered here, the business leaders throughout the valley, throughout South Texas, Democrats and Republicans who stood together and said, trade is good, commerce is good, jobs are good. Because of the strong voice of South Texas, we've been able to earn these victories, and these victories we need to keep pressing. They're not yet over the finish line. The legislation that's pending needs to pass the Senate, it needs to pass the House, it needs to be signed by the President. And that's the purpose of this press conference, to continue to have the bipartisan, strong press, because the message that the Biden administration needs to hear, the message that everyone needs to hear, is build these damn bridges. Expand these bridges, because building and expanding these bridges is more jobs in South Texas. It's higher wages in South Texas. It's more opportunity in South Texas. And I'll point out also, it is good not just for South Texas, but for the entire state of Texas and for the entire country. It is good for national security as we are nearshoring and bringing more and more manufacturing back from China. Much of it is coming to Mexico south of the border, and the enormous trade and commerce is good for making us less dependent on China. Building and expanding these bridges is good for Texas farmers, it's good for Texas ranchers, it's good for Texas manufacturers, it's good for Texas small businesses, and I'll tell you what it's also good for. It's good for the environment. Right now, you can see on any given day over 10,000 18-wheelers sitting, waiting to cross this bridge. Sometimes sitting 2, 3, 4 hours, spewing pollution into the air while the trucks are sitting there in a needless traffic jam. By expanding this bridge, by creating more lanes for commerce, the trucks can move more quickly, the goods can get to the customers faster, which lowers prices for consumers, and they pollute a whole lot less when they don't sit in a parking lot for hours waiting on the traffic jam. This is a win-win. It is a bipartisan win for South Texas, and we're proud to stand here united. My friend and colleague, Congressman Henry Cuellar.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you again. I want to say thank you so much to Senator Cruz for his leadership that he's done to get us to this point. So again, Senator, thank you so much. I also, as the Senator mentioned, it's a bipartisan effort. If you think about it, you got Senator Cruz, Senator Cornyn, you got Vicente Gonzalez, you got Monica de la Cruz, you got Tony Gonzalez, all of us working together in a bipartisan way to make sure we get this done. Why are we here today? We're here to get the fight, get a victory over bureaucracy. It's a fight over bureaucracy. It's going to be a victory over bureaucracy. That is how we do presidential permits that we see here, why it's so important that we get this done. It's going to get done. The Senator has added language on the NDAA, which is one bill that has to pass at the end of the year. It's one of those must-pass pieces of legislation. I've added language on the appropriations bill, which is, again, another must-pass legislation. So one way or the other, at the end of the year, this will get done. And again, Senator, I want to thank you for what you've done on that NDAA. Now, we're here because trade is important. Every year, or just last year, we saw more than $863 billion of trade between the U.S. and Mexico. We're almost reaching $1 trillion of trade, which means that every minute that we're here, that's over $1 million of trade between the U.S. and Mexico. So bridges are very, very important. The Senator talked about the way it was before. The way it was before, we could get things, we could file the application, the local government could continue its work, and then the NEPA, the environmental, could be working at the same time. Example, Kansas City, the second Kansas City bridge that we got was done under the old system. We need to bring that back where we're not getting rid of the NEPA, the environmental. All we're asking is let us do it at the same time so we can cut down the time to get these permits done. And we're going to get it done. It's going to be done. And again, it's an effort that has been working on. I see my friends from the CBP. We've added more money to hire more CBP officers. Men and women in green, it's important. I support that. But the men and women in blue is important. So we've added monies to add more CBP officers. We added more money for technology, the non-intrusive technology, to make sure that we move the trade along. Infrastructure, there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that will be coming to this area. And of course, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to the rest of the border itself, in the billions of dollars. Brownsville, I know we got the county judge here all the way to Maverick County. We're doing that effort to make sure we have infrastructure, have the men and women in blue, the technology to move trade, and making sure that we coordinate as Mexico sets its national customs that will be set up in Nuevo Laredo very, very soon. So again, we're doing that effort. So again, it's to help all the bridges, not only the World Trade Bridge, but also other bridges, including, and let me say this, I finished talking to the governor of Nuevo León, which is Samuel Garcia, and just to let you know, they also will be filing a presidential permit to expand their 8 lanes to 16 lanes like we're doing here at the World Trade Bridge. So again, we'll welcome all these new bridges from Maverick County all the way down to the valley, including here in Laredo, Texas. So with that, Senator Cruz, thank you for your leadership. Senator Cornyn also, and of course the bipartisan delegation. And again, 2 pieces of legislation. At the end of the year, it's going to be done, and we're going to see this permit move faster. Thank you, and God bless.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Victor Trevino, Mayor for the City of Laredo. And it gives me great pleasure to be here in this, what I call, historic event, because it is historic. We're going into different times, and I think it'll be very exciting for us. I want to thank everybody for being here, and especially welcome Senator Cruz for being here and his help and his staff to our great city, like I said, and our great World Trade Bridge. I also want to thank him for championing the expeditious approval of the long overdue presidential permit that can commence to flourish not only what will benefit Texas, but what will benefit the whole United States. As being Laredo, the #1 port of entry in the country, this is very important to us. And it can compete with the global forces, and it can compete at a world stage. These expansions are important so that we are less dependent on unstable markets, like we have said, and competing interests around the world. It also creates more American jobs and strengthens our ties with Mexico and our continent to benefit from this trade and security. So with that being said, I thank everybody. Thank you, Senator. And I pass on the microphone to Ana Garcia for Senator Cornyn's office. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ana Maria Garcia. I work for Senator John Cornyn. Unfortunately, the senator could not be here today to join Senator Cruz and Congressman Cuellar and, of course, our stakeholders, but sends his regards and regrets that he couldn't be here. I'd like to read a statement on his behalf, and it says, "Our international bridges are critical arteries that play an invaluable role in trade, commerce, and our entire nation's economy. We must be able to build and expand these bridges efficiently, which is why I was proud to join my colleagues in urging the White House to expedite their permitting processes. I want to thank my friends Senator Cruz and Representative Cuellar for their partnership on this critical issue. In addition to working on this vital issue, I am working to advance other priorities for South Texas, including securing more funding for the International and Boundary and Water Commission, working with the State Department and our friends in Mexico on water commitments, and promoting safe, secure, and efficient commerce with our southern neighbors. From cross-border bridges to a sufficient water supply and everything in between, I will always fight to ensure South Texas remains a vibrant region for our great state. Again, Senator Cruz, thank you for your leadership on this. Congressman Cuellar, thank you for your leadership. And also, we have to thank the different associations that have been at the forefront of this, the Texas Association of Business, the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the leadership of our delegation right here with Cameron County Judge Eddie Trevino, our Judge Cantu from Maverick County, and so many others who have played a vital role in making this become a reality. And closing, I want to give the men in blue back there a round of applause. Look at this. Without them, we would not have this efficient trade and commerce. So thank you very much for what you all do day in and day out. Thank you.
Good morning. Muy buenos días. My name's Eddie Trevino, and I'm proud to serve as a Cameron County judge. We decided to make the drive up here to show our support and our thanks to the leadership of Senator Cruz and Congressman Cuellar and Senator Cornyn and everyone that's had a hand in making this legislation a reality. I was asked when we told people that we were coming up here for a press conference with Senator Cruz and Congressman Cuellar if I had the agenda correct with the parties. And they said maybe this is a sign, with all of this nice weather that we've been having, that hell is actually freezing over. But no, it's not. This is what happens when leadership gets together to make things happen for the people that they represent. And I know it's warm, so I'll try to make this brief. But what you've heard and what we've been talking about is exactly the point. Bridges make for better partners, increases economic trade. The cross-border trade that's grown as a result of NAFTA and USMCA, Laredo, the Valley, we've been the biggest beneficiaries of it. Let's not kid ourselves. But we know there's so much more to do. Senator and Congressman, we appreciate these efforts to get rid of that bureaucratic red tape, to get us these presidential permits so we can move forward on these 4 bridges all along the Texas-Mexico border. But more importantly, the reality that by working together, we will get things done. That to me is heartwarming, and I'm very, very appreciative of their leadership and their commitment to work together for the benefit of all of us. So on behalf of the Cameron County and the Rio Grande Valley, we're pleased to be here and join in our thanks to the leadership and making this legislation and making these 4 bridges a reality. Thank you, Senator Cruz. Thank you, Senator Cornyn. Thank you, Congressman Cuellar.
Yes, sir. Mayor?
Thank you so much, Senator Cruz and Congressman Cuellar, for your leadership. My name is Ramiro Cavazos. I'm the President and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We represent 5 million Latino-owned businesses. We are a pro-business, free trade, bipartisan business association based in Washington, D.C. Not only do we have these 5 million Latino-owned businesses, but the 63.5 million Americans of Hispanic descent represent more than $3 trillion of economic power. The future of this nation will go through the Latino community. I want to thank the Senator and the Congressman for all of the folks that are here for their bipartisanship. I'm based in Washington, D.C. We represent more than 300 Latino chambers, but ironically, I'm from Weslaco, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, so I would not miss this press conference, Senator and Congressman. I also want to thank all of the people of the business community. It is not lost on us that Mexico is our largest trading partner, and we need to implement the USMCA fully between Canada, U.S., and Mexico, or else we won't realize the true potential of our economic power. These bridges need to be accelerated. There's no question. I grew up crossing bridges, and I can tell you that we need more. And as you can see with the traffic right next to us, that the economy is booming and we're back to normal. So just in conclusion, I'd like to say that free enterprise is alive and well. We need to accelerate the permitting and the approval of not only our bridges, but any other projects that enhance workforce along the border, pathway to citizenship, because we are underemployed nationally. We need to fill every job that's available to keep our state #1 economy in the world at 40% of all the nations. Without a complete package, it will be hard to do that. So this is a great start, Senator and Congressman Cuellar, to make sure that as great friends, you all show the way forward for Democrats and Republicans of how to get deals done. Thank you on behalf of the American economy.
Good morning to everyone. My name is David Zapata. I'm the Vice President of International Affairs for the Texas Association of Business. TAB for short. We represent more than 1,200 companies and small, medium, large from all over the state, from the border to Dallas to North Texas to the Panhandle. Our members understand that the need for an efficient presidential permitting process to properly address the evolving infrastructure needs of Our members understand the need for the process of international bridges to be more expedited easily. We believe that Senator Cruz's amendment can achieve this by streamlining the permitting process and providing clarity to border stakeholders as they pursue these projects. It's important to remember that the trade relationship between Texas and Mexico is an important part of our economic success as Texas. Just in 2022, it equaled $285 billion. With the implementation of the USMCA and favorable nearshoring trends, we can expect this relationship to continue to grow, and with it, our need to continue building and improving our ports of entry and international border crossings. We thank Senator Cruz, Senator Cornyn, and Congressman Cuellar and the South Texas delegation for their leadership in this initiative and making this process easier for us to achieve more economic success and expand our economic relationship with Mexico. Thank you so much, Congressman, Senator.
Wow, thank you. My name is John Esparza, President of the Texas Trucking Association, also representing our partners with the Laredo Motor Carriers Association here. Thank you, thank you. This is a look at all the drivers that are coming across here today, and it's not lost on me. This is about the very men and women in this industry. It's nice to be at such an important event for trucking. I mean, this is exactly what this is about. These two leaders understand what it takes to be leadership, what it takes to be good leaders, what it takes to move the ball forward. Conversations that have been had with all these stakeholders about this expansion. It is a day for celebration, Senator, I agree, and couldn't agree more. But let me also say and state that not just through their leadership, but it takes tremendous statesmen. Freight doesn't know the color of politics. It doesn't know Republican. It doesn't know Democrat. What I do know is it's going to continue to move and move and move and grow. The state is geographically located in and of itself to pull freight to serve the rest of the country. And not only have we seen the crossings here grow from the time that I've been serving at this capacity from 4,000 to 6,000 to 8,000 to 12,000 and higher, it's going to continue to grow. Not only do these two gentlemen, these two statesmen behind me understand that, and the partnerships that they've put together that you've heard them talk about with some of the other members of this delegation in Texas, but they can carry through and be successful. And it's important. Without their success, freight stops moving. And if freight stops moving, then we've got larger problems. Thank you again for all that you guys do, and we appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for your terrific remarks. We'll now open it up, and Henry and I are glad to take questions from anyone. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good morning. Congressman Cuellar, your bill that's pending that was passed by the House Appropriations, the State Foreign Operations Bill, would also allow permitting on the northern borders to be expedited as well. Could you explain
Well, first of all, we want to make sure that whatever we pass, we're on the same page. So Senator Cruz and I are also have filed legislation, but mine's a little broader. Mine covers any bridges in the northern area. But I think we're going to work with the senator to make sure we tighten this up a little bit more. I did talk to the White House. I did talk to the Council of Environment, talked to the Secretary also. They said, we understand, we're going to move it. And I said, I understand what you're telling me, but we're going to trust and verify, and the Senator and I are going to put legislation to make sure it happens. So mine's a little broader that covers north and south because I'm a big believer in trade. But we are going to work with the Senator to make sure that we're on the same language as Senator Cruz is.
Senator Cruz, so we're going to go to the whole group. So we saw that the Department of Justice has threatened to sue the state of Texas with a recent case increase in Eagle Pass that were placed recently. We see that CBP is trying to incentivize people, migrants to cross the coast rental through CBP-1. So any comments on the recent actions by the DOJ and other organizations?
So unsurprisingly, I have a lot of thoughts both on the Department of Justice's lawsuit against the state of Texas and on the enormous challenge we face with illegal immigration. I want to keep this press conference focused on the topic here today, which is building and expanding those bridges. I am not shy at expressing my views on these topics and happy to go into them in depth at another time.
Senator Cruz, you've been advocating these bridges for quite some time. However, why are you showing more advocacy now than in the past administrations?
Well, in the prior administration, the way the administration did it is it granted the presidential permit first, contingent upon the NEPA review being concluded. And that was the right way to do it. It expedited building new bridges and expanding bridges. The problem really began when the Biden administration came into office. And this issue first came to my attention seriously a couple of years ago, early in the Biden administration. We started this morning with a roundtable of all the men and women gathered here talking, and one of the things that was brought up is a number of the city leaders from Laredo came to me pretty early in the Biden administration, came to my office, and they sat down and they said, okay, we're running into a roadblock at the State Department. We're really eager to expand this bridge. It needs it. We need the new traffic, and suddenly the Biden State Department has announced they won't allow the presidential permit to be approved until the back end, until all the environmental review has been completed. That's going to delay this project by years, and it doesn't make any sense. And it was really the stakeholders here from Laredo and throughout South Texas, and I've met with leaders from Cameron County and Maverick County and all up and down the valley who are consistently concerned about the need to expand trade and commerce. And so the problem manifested in the last 2 years, and it's for that reason that I began leaning in, and it started off with initially just phone calls to the Department of State saying, hey, what's going on here? What is the policy? Did the policy change? Who's the problem? We were trying to figure out what was it a bureaucrat buried in the Department of State? Was it somebody at the White House? Who was blocking it? And we were running into roadblocks. We were not getting where we needed to be. And one of the things that I shared with the roundtable, I'm a big believer in utilizing both carrot and stick. And so utilizing positive incentives to get a change in policy from the Biden administration, but also using stick. And in particular, what I did here is I placed a hold on multiple nominees at the Department of State that the Secretary of State really wanted. And what broke the logjam, what got this legislation passed into the NDAA, was we were having an all-day markup in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and a number of the Democrats in the Senate were opposing my amendment. And we were going back and forth, and the State Department reached out to my office and they said, okay, we want to make sure we understand. If we agree to the changes in this amendment, you'll lift the holds on the nominees at the State Department. To which I responded, well, of course, the whole point of the holds was to incentivize you to change the policy. If we change the policy, absolutely, we'll lift them immediately. With that, the State Department acquiesced. And once that happened, the Democrats in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee came on board as well, and we passed it with overwhelming bipartisan support. That's an approach I've been able to get real success with. We talked earlier about how the same approach is how I addressed the Biden administration blocking export permits to export liquid natural gas. There were multiple LNG export permits that were pending in Texas and Louisiana and up and down the Gulf Coast. All of them were being held up by the Biden administration. I used the same lever point. I put holds on nominees from the Department of Energy. The Secretary of Energy called me very dismayed. She said, I really need my nominees. I said, fantastic. Approve the permits, allow Texas to export LNG. That's good for jobs, it's good for energy, it's good for our allies that need Texas energy. And I said, when you grant the permits, I will lift the holds within 30 seconds. And if you don't grant the permits, I will keep the holds until the end of time. Just a few weeks later, she granted the permits, I lifted the holds, and we're now seeing billions being invested, much of it being invested in South Texas to build new LNG export facilities, including in Brownsville and Corpus Christi. That is generating enormous jobs. And so I'm a big believer in incentivizing action from the administration. And I'll tell you, it's all the more potent when you could do so in a bipartisan manner. When I was able to say to the Democrats in the Senate, every single member of the congressional delegation from South Texas, all the Democrats, all the Republicans were on the same page, building the bridges, expanding the bridges. It's good for South Texas, it's good for Texas, it's good for America.
One question.
All right, last question.
Congressman Cuellar, I know that recently Congressman Jeffries made a visit here to the Gateway City. Do you expect that more members of the House are going to join us so that the message reaches out? And you can have all this.
Sí, en inglés, en español. Sí, aquí estuvo el líder Jeffries aquí en esta parte y ellos entienden, demócratas, republicanos, entienden la importancia del negocio. Vamos a traer también a David Joyce, que es un republicano. Yo soy líder en la área de Homeland Ranking Member. Él es el chairman. El republicano va a venir aquí pronto, donde vamos a hablar de los agentes azules, la tecnología que necesitamos, y eso es algo muy importante, y por eso lo que estamos haciendo aquí, lo que está haciendo el senador Cruz, estamos moviendo el proceso más rápido. El único punto que quiero hacer es que cuando se hace así en una manera eficiente, sabemos que hay resultados. Por ejemplo, el puente número 2 de Kansas City se hizo rápidamente. Queremos, el senador Cruz y nosotros queremos tener el mismo proceso donde vamos a pelear la burocracia de la administración.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.